Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, the usual disclaimers. And, a rant. Not that anybody cares, but since this is one of the very few outlets that I have to give voice to things, I'm going to say it anyways. Every year, this is one of the hardest days for me to get through. 15 years ago today, I was taking the plane home from my dad's wake. I actually took longer to get on here than I intended because I did have an emotional breakdown, in spite of all the positivity going on. And then, as I always do before these videos, I went to check the news on the Stop the Shock. I try not to get disheartened. I don't think I'll ever give up hope or no hope. And I haven't had hope in a long time. I don't even remember what it feels like. But I won't stop. And wherever my dad is right now, I can only hope he's proud. I do try. But this is one of the days, folks, when the mask is off. There is no doll. Just me allowing myself to feel all that pain that I usually keep behind locked doors in the back of my brain. When I talk about psychological damage that being forced to mask causes, this is what I'm talking about. Because usually we're not allowed to feel those emotions. We are trained to be more normal than normal. So we're not allowed to authentically feel things. But anyways, to the disclaimers, right? In the description box, folks, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much. They have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC actually sees through with their threat. Also linked in there, the Ozark's first article in regards to the Agape boarding school / now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation. This is a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has and pending, folks, over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and folks, that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor who still lives on the premises with full access to the boys on multiple substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault, the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens and failing, I might add, to defund public libraries to actually do his job and protect the kids out here. And you've got a governor. I don't know what I can tell you all, but an intervention will not help at this point, and this state is looking more bleak every single day. So send help. Please share that on all your social media. Also included in there, as usual, the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masemba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, folks, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. Got young children present, please use your headphones. This channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity on occasion. We speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger, they are watching this. Very obviously, parental supervision is advised. All right, folks, square your shoulders. Get you some calming tea. And of course, trigger warning. We are about to once again descend into the mad ravings of the lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. You're going to hear gaslighting, victim blaming, pseudoscience and lies, abuse and torture apologencia, all coming from a man with a massive ego and even larger God complex. So folks, prepare yourselves for the stupid, alright? Alright, let's get into it. I would be frequently restrained and placed in a small room. Again, MDRI has fraudulently taken out of context a small part of a longer statement that is supportive towards the JRC and the use of the GED shock. Here you go lying again, doctor. Here you go lying again. See, Dr. Israel is once again using us as the scapegoats, which we went into yesterday why he does that. The fact of the matter is, MDRI presented any and all quotes in the full context for which that they were made, but they did take excerpts out that seemed fishy with multiple red flags, as we've also done on this channel. That does not mean that we are misleading you. It does not mean we are lying. It means that even in these positive statements, there's something very, very wrong. Doctor. You see, I am allowed to read a statement and then voice my opinion on it. It's called freedom of speech. Maybe you've heard of it sometime. Okay? And coming from a writer and someone who started writing at a very young age, I would like to think, a decent amount of experience as to what seems like an authentic statement from a teenager and what sounds like a gigantic red flag, even if it's supposed to be positive for your center. But we don't discuss that, do we, doctor? We're too busy demonizing us because we're just stupid autistic people. We just don't know what's good for us, said every single abuser I've ever encountered in my life. And you sound just like him, doctor. Isn't that what every abusive parent says? The kid deserved it. How else am I supposed to discipline them so they know it's wrong? Yeah, that, right? By selecting and rearranging the words, here we go again, MDRI makes it seem like it's a critical statement. No, they don't, doctor. We are allowed to present the whole statement and then take excerpts out that seem psychotic. Which is what the MDRI report does, by the way. We are allowed to have opinions. We are allowed to state those opinions publicly. Matter of fact, doctor, we are even allowed to publish those opinions. Okay? They stated that it was a statement made in favor. They took the excerpts out that seemed questionable, as we do on this channel. And you don't get to sit there and say, but they're lying, they're presenting it as false, just because when people read it, it sounds insane, because it is. But let's move on. The words as quoted were not what the student actually said. It's their exact words, doctor. But that's not what they really said. Really? Notably absent from the words that the MDRI chose to quote are the following words about the EGED, "It saved my life," which appears as the first sentence in the final paragraph of the letter. The full statement, a letter from the JRC student, Brian Avery, is reprinted below. The words are taken out of context and are indicated by bold font. Here we go again. We're not actually going to read this statement because I have to spare myself the massive amount of stupidity. No, we will actually read it, doctor. You know what? No, because I'm not going to give you any reason to gloat, you psychotic bastard. Sorry, folks. When I said mask is off today, mask is off today. Okay? Let's get into it, shall we? My name is Brian Avery, and I was a student at JRC from September 1998 to January 2004. Prior to me entering JRC at 12, I was in and out of several psychiatric hospitals and failed in 2 alternative educational settings. Let me start off with this. Having been a teenager and been around teenagers, do y'all really think that we start with just sitting there and describing to you every single one of our faults? No, nobody does that. Literally, nobody does that. Most of us want to put forward our best side, not sit there and start listing our deficits. You know who does that? Doctors, the medical model, ABA, that's who does that. This is why, doctor, we say it's a red flag, and we doubt the statement actually came from the kid, or if it did come from them, we feel that it was more than likely coerced. Because no teenager is going to sit there and list all of their worst faults for the world to see. Okay? Just saying. My behavioral problems really began to escalate when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I was on several medications, including Tramadol, Haldol, Ritalin, Resperadol, Depoc, Prozac, and Paxil. At age 10, my behavior became dangerously out of control. Okay. Again, I'm going to say this. Do you all think that a teenager is going to sit there and count off the medications that we are on, like we're discussing the weather? Because we don't. We're already stigmatized as outcasts before anything becomes apparent in regards to how different we really are. We're not going to just start listing off our medications willingly. You think I declared to the world that I was on Ritalin? Or Wellbutrin? Or Zoloft? No, I kept that shit hid. I was already an outcast. I did not need to make the situation worse. No kid sits there and writes out this kind of crap unless it's being forced. But let me go on here. Oh, in school I would climb on furniture, climb under furniture, mouth off at the teacher, run off and run out of class. I would have been chased down by the school staff. I would disrespect authority figures, yell, swear, exhibit inappropriate sexual behaviors in school. I would try to stab myself with a pencil. I'd become physically aggressive with my teachers and would have to be confined to a small padded room. Again, Do you think that we're just going to start listing all of this? Why is he listing all of this? It doesn't make sense. To give you an example, my brother was the neurotypical brother, I might add, is what you would consider a school problem child. He gave his teachers full-on hell. You know what I'm saying? To the point that when I got the same math teacher when I was in high school, I was heavily discriminated against because she hated my brother that much. Yeah, that. Now, do you think that during this time, or any time after it, that my brother is going to sit down and write out about all this supposedly wrong behavior? No. A lot of this stuff that is talked about is regular teenage and yes, even pre-teenage behavior. This doctor continues to act like he's never had an experience of an actual high school or middle school. Because if you think that middle school kids do not swear in the hallways, again, you're not living in reality. Just saying. In December of 1996, I was moved from a co-ed class with a 10 to 2 student-teacher ratio to another elementary school a few towns over and placed in a male class with a 6 to 2 student ratio. That change delivered little improvement to my behavior and academic progress. Again, this is what they're talking about. I'm glad he's delving into this here because you remember Dr. Matthew Israel's like, they got thrown out of all the other programs. This isn't a program, doctor. This is a school. This is a regular public school. Okay? You continue to hammer on and on and on and on about they get thrown out of every single program and nothing helped. Remember when I told you early back in this series of videos that in actuality the programs that they were doing was in public schools and that those special ed classrooms are extremely limited, extremely underfunded, and extremely understaffed? Exhibit A. Okay? Exhibit A. This is not trying everything. Okay? This is not trying everything, doctor. No matter how you try to make this kid make it sound. It is no wonder to me, my dear kid friend, that no change happened. You were in an underfunded and understaffed classroom. People who, more often than not, I had to explain my diagnosis and how to handle my disability to when I had the few occasions to actually be in said classrooms. It does not surprise me in the least that no change was made because there is no real program going on in those classrooms. Okay? I know this on a professional level as well as lived experience, folks. Good God. At home, I spent most of my time sleeping or being a couch potato, a debilitating side effect of the medication I was taking. That sounds like a statement that was spoon-fed to you by Dr. Israel. Let's talk real teenagers for 5 minutes. Okay? You want to know what me and my brother were doing after school? You really think we were doing all the athletic things and going, yay, chores? No. Our asses sat on that couch while he would game for hours on end, or we'd be watching The Simpsons and Beavis and Butthead, okay? That is typical teenage and preteen behavior, and Dr. Israel is demonizing it. This is why I call it the medical model's romanticized idea of normal, because the only place it actually exists is inside these people's heads. These people have no idea how teenagers actually are. I'm sorry, but they don't. But let's move on. During the time I was awake, I would disrespect my parents, be aggressive towards my parents and siblings, throw tantrums, destroy property, would spend hours on end crying. You know what that's called, kid? It's a meltdown. You want to know how you minimize meltdowns? You go to real therapy and you start pulling up the root causes of those issues. You do not string yourselves up to a torture device and then tell us that it saved your life, kid, because I'm sorry it didn't. And eventually, all that crap that you were forced to repress while wearing a smile on your face and telling them all that they want to hear, it will, hear me, will come to a head someday. Please believe me, I've lived it. In 1998, and also in that year, I spent another 3 weeks in a psychiatric hospital. After my third hospitalization, my parents and school district finally came to the conclusion that I needed to be placed in a residential school. After visiting numerous schools in New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Massachusetts, my parents chose the JRC. We'll do the second half of this statement after this, but you see what I'm saying here? All this stuff this kid is listing, granted, there are extremes in there and things that normal kids do not do, but there are so many things being demonized that you can find in any household with any neurotypical teenager. Teenagers rebel against authority. They rebel against their parents. They get in arguments with their parents. It's a natural part of growing up. That has nothing to do with our disability. Absolutely none. That is being a normal teenager and preteen. But people in the medical model are so hyperfixated on behaviors that they will demonize things in us that are the same as our neurotypical peers. And then they will try to force us to mask to be better than better. When I say they don't allow us to be human, this is what I mean. And then they will make us hate ourselves for things that are also being done by our neurotypical peers in their own households. And then they will use it as an excuse to throw us into these places. They will try and tell you that they've tried everything. But do you notice in the entirety of this statement, never does this kid get taken to a therapist? The hours on end crying, and you're a parent, and you don't seem to think that something is wrong? That maybe the answer is to not send my kid on a residential school across the other side of the country from me, where they will be shocked, starved, sleep deprived, and instead taking them to a therapist? Yeah. We're going to close on that, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.